Hello, and thanks for joining me. My name is Coach Christopher Simpson. I'm the head football coach at Trinity Christian School in Morgantown, West Virginia. And today we're going to talk about building the mental toughness in your kicking game. Now, I come from an interesting standpoint. I'm a kicker and a punter by nature. So for me, it's second nature. And for many of you, it probably won't be that way. And I also bring a different guide step into this as well. I'm an engineer by trade. So I'm more of a numbers and a perfect practice guy than I am about the mental side of the game and about the head games that you can play with your kickers. So what I'm going to go over today is a basic package install for your practices and a basic guide to help you build confidence inside of your kicking game. And I think you'll see great results from it, whether you've got the all-star from the soccer team that's an absolute stud or whether you have the new kicker just giving it a shot. I think it'll give you the keys to be able to be extremely successful. As you can see on my page, if at any time, if you have questions, please feel free to contact me. It's csimpson@tcswv.org. My Instagram is CoachSimpson_TCS, and my Twitter account is @CoachSimpsonTCS. So again, let's get started with building mental toughness in your kicking game. So building mental toughness into your kicking game for me, it's a 7-step process, and we'll go all the way through those steps today. But something you need to remember right from the beginning is that special teams is 1/3 of the game. Whether you want to deny it, believe it, pretend it doesn't exist, it is there. And are you practicing 1/3 of the time? Are you donating that amount of time towards your special teams? And I'm going to be perfectly blunt with you. If you're not practicing 1/3 of the time in special teams, you're going to fail at special teams all along the way. So that brings up the very first point, and that's in keeping special teams special. And as I go throughout this presentation, I want you to remember something. As a head coach or as a special teams coordinator, if you don't buy in, you're not going to help yourself build the mental toughness of your kicking unit. So understand that right from the beginning. You have to take it to the next level. You have to buy in. You have to be present at these meetings. You have to be present at these on-field sessions. The kids have to see you there. They have to understand that you're involved in it. They have to understand that you're bought into it. It's extremely, extremely important. Now, being an engineer, being a numbers guy, one of the early books that I really sunk my teeth into, and I'm sure many of you have as well, was the Frank Beamer book on special teams. So a lot of us have seen this chart before, and it's the field position battle per game. And it talks about breaking down the odds of where you are in the field, and it breaks down your percentage of scoring. This is something that I bring up on the very first day whenever we start talking about special teams. And I break it down because a lot of times, a lot of offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, they don't understand the overall importance of what you're actually doing and why the kicking game is so special and it's so unique. If you're fortunate enough, like we are, we have an excellent place kicker, and he also does all of our punting duties, Kyle Knight. He's excellent at being able to kick and give us touchbacks. And that's a 22% increase or a decrease from scoring for the other team when he's able to put the ball in the end zone when we start at the 20, as opposed to somebody running back to the 30 or the 40-yard line on us. So understanding it that way from a numbers scenario, it's extremely important. And it also helps to show the importance to the other team members as to why they're going about that way. But remember this, if you don't put the time into it, the solid kicking game, and if you don't invest into your kicker, this chart's absolutely worthless, and you're just destroying your numbers and trying to score each and every week. So number 2 is try to make your kicker part of the team. I've been a part of some teams that I had really special head coaches. They really cared about what was going on. They really went out of their way to involve me into the practices. I was more than just the kicker. I was coach. At that point, I was this Chris Simpson. I was a guy on the team. And you'll see a lot of guys that go through and they treat them just like kickers. I worked as a traveling guy for a little bit, and I would show up on game day and warm up, and I was just the kicker. And I had no buy-in with the team. Nobody really talked to me. I was just there. I did my job. I collected a paycheck. And there's no doubt that that's why some of those were some of my worst statistical years. You have to buy in. You have to understand how important it is and what you're looking at, and you have to be a part of something. So moving forward from that, you make the kicker a part of your team. It creates buy-in, and buy-in is the most important part. Whether you have the stud soccer player or whether you have the young kid that's just trying to kick and work his way through it. And that moves us on to number 3. Who is your kicker? I've said it a few times already. Is this the stud soccer player that's an excellent athlete and goes out there and has the confidence of an amazing warrior on the field every single week? Is this a 9th grader or a 10th grader that's on your squad and probably has the strongest leg and has never kicked before? You have to understand that. I'm going to make an analogy when understanding this in the special teams realm. Do you have a Ferrari or do you have an old Ford pickup truck? And you have to understand this as a coach or as a special teams coordinator going into it. If you've got the old Ford F-150, you can't go 150 miles per hour around the turn. You have to understand it's a slow process. And as we get deeper into this presentation, I'm going to go over some of the numbers that's going to help show the way that I break it down. So whether you have the stud or whether you have the Ford F-150, you're still going to be able to get excellent results and continue to build mental confidence throughout. So we get back to this point, and it's something that I go over a lot with my teams, and it's that practice doesn't make perfect. And the reason why I say that is because you can get into some really, really bad habits. You can really build into a way that's not going to work out for what you're looking for. And you have to understand that practice just doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And if you're willing to put the right amount of time into it, if you're willing to work through the system, you're going to see the growth that you're looking for, and you're going to have better control on game days and in game situations and be far in better control of your odds. But what I try to relate to all my teams, and I relate to my kickers, is that perfect practice makes perfect. It's implementing the entire system. It's having the buy-in. It's doing the little things right every single time. I don't have the time to get into the whole mental side of kicking and talking like I'm a shrink. We just don't have that kind of time today. But going over some of these lessons, going over some of these weekly practice schedule regimes, I think you'll have a lot better luck in seeing the growth of your kicking game and understanding where you're headed after that. So, how do you build your practice to build better confidence? And the answer is pretty simple. It's all in consistency. It's putting your kicker in a consistent spot every single day. It's building consistent game scenarios into your consistent practice. Notice the key word here is consistency. You always want your player to be in a spot where they have already performed this before, because you can't expect the kicker to go out and make a huge kick or make a game-winning kick or understand the terms or what's going on with an onside kick if you haven't practiced it, or if you haven't put that time into it. So breaking it down, we do 2 different types of kicking every single day. This is my personal preference. You don't have to do it this way, but these are the 2 big keys for me every single day. Number 1 is punting. We punt every single day, whether we punt return. Punting, when I view a game as a head coach, I go in and I view it as a chess match. So I play that consistent Frank Beamer football chart in my head all the time. So I'm always looking at trying to gain an advantage or lose an advantage by where we are. Another interesting point, and I believe Coach Salas brought this up in one of his web chats, is you have no other offensive play that's going to average over 30 yards and change possession for you at any time. So, Coach, thanks for bringing that point up, but it's extremely, extremely important in the entire system. You can make and change a game and really make a huge difference that way. The second thing that we work every single day is we work ball exchanges. So whether it's a long snap to your punter, whether it's a short snap to your holder, whether it's something that you probably do every day already with your centers to your quarterback, always work ball exchanges. That builds mental confidence in the system. Because when your kickers, if you're going for a long field goal or you're going for that PAT that means the difference, you can build that mental edge inside of your kicker because he understands that the ball exchange unit in front of him, the short snapper to the holder, is going to be perfect every single time. So he doesn't have to worry about it. The only thing he has to worry about at that point is what he has in front of him and what he or she has to control. And the same goes with punting. If you work that punter consistently every day for 10 or 15 minutes with that long snapper, they understand what's going on with each other. They understand where their misses are, and it builds confidence again. So once again, always work on your ball exchanges and always work on your punting, and you'll see huge dividends replayed. So when I tell you to design a practice like it's game day for the kickers, I want you to break it down all the way from the beginning. And what I want you to do is break it down so the first 30 minutes of every single one of your practices is a good, solid warm-up for your kicker. And what I want you to understand is that once you get that 30-minute warm-up for your kicker set, that same 30-minute warm-up that you do every single day in your practices is also your 30-minute warm-up for your kicker on field. So once again, that's how you build confidence in that scenario, because you're putting that kicker mentally through the same exact regimen on game day that you are during every single practice. So it becomes second nature for your place kickers or for your punters. We lift weights directly after school, and then we go straight to the field. So I always start 10 minutes before, and I get my kickers out and I make sure that they stretch. It's so important not to go out, guys. And if you're a young kicker, please listen to what I'm saying. Do not go out and start trying to bomb 50-yard field goals and 60-yard punts. Just don't do it. Work yourself in slow. Make sure that you take the time to get your leg properly warm, and be prepared and start short and build confidence that way. Okay? Then at the beginning part of the practice, while some of the team is off doing their stretches and working through some calisthenics, what you want to work on are your ball exchanges. So get the short snapper over with the holder. Get the long snapper over with the punter. Make sure that you create that special moment for those guys and spend that time every single day. It'll pay off and it builds confidence. The next 5 minutes is an easy warm-up. We just go through 5 PATs in close for the kicker. It's nothing crazy. It's a 20-yard field goal. Work on consistency, nice, smooth motion through the kick. And then for the next 5 minutes after that, we go into just a 30-yard field goal. So just keep them right center hash, go straight back 10 yards, and again, just nice, smooth consistency. And what we're really looking for during those first 10 minutes of kicking, it's not about blowing out your leg. It's about understanding that a good, clean gait, a good, clean swing, and good consistency of contact on the ball is going to create much better distance and much better control than trying to absolutely destroy a ball every time you kick it. And then the next 10 minutes after you get those through, I strongly suggest some nice, easy pooch kicks. You can put them at the 50-yard line, put them on your tee. Use your field goal or your PAT step back. So 3 back, 2 to the side, or however you do it. And just work on nice, clean consistency. Again, working on the fundamentals of good, clean contact, good, clean swing, good, clean contact is so important in this. And over time, you'll watch that those kickoffs, after you go through those initial first 10 PATs and field goals, you'll start getting better distance on a more regular basis out of your pooch kicks. And you'll start to see that the ball goes a little higher and a little further each time. So again, and just to recap, and you're probably going to hear me say this several times today, make sure that you design practice just like it's game day for your kickers. You want to build that confidence into your system, and it'll pay itself off. And again, that 30 minutes, whether it's pre-game or whether you're in practice, it's exactly the same for the kicker. So you're doing yourself a huge, huge favor during that time. Don't ever try to throw somebody into something that they're not used to working through. The way that I relate this a lot, and why we go over it sometimes in team play, you want to be able to relate what you're doing in special teams to how you do things on other parts of the team or other parts of the field. Whenever we go into, say, indie time on our offense, we work a lot of mesh drills. We work a lot of noose drills. We do that because we're an air raid team. We do that because we have to work on that timing with the quarterback of understanding how far their drop is, what the pass is going to feel like, how to accept the ball, what the tendencies are. But you already do it with your offense. Do it with your special teams unit as well, and you're going to see the same amount of success. I've heard there's a lot of coaches that debate back and forth about their weekly breakdown of how they go through and how they kick during the week. And what I'll tell you is this, and it's in green at the bottom of your screen, it takes the leg about 24 hours to completely heal. This is important because you can't go out every single day, and you definitely can't go out the day before a game and just completely blow your kicker's leg out. It's also why we go over how to do a good 30-minute proper warm-up before your games, because you don't want your kicker to go out and kick 50 or 60 kicks before a game, and then they completely blow out all the strength in their leg. So for us, we break it down. It's a Monday through a Thursday for Friday games. And if there's a Friday game, I go ahead and we stretch every Saturday morning. We meet as a team. We go over the health status of the team. I've got all my medical professionals there checking everybody out, making sure that we've got our proper 72 hours to heal and to get ready. And then Monday, we go in full bore with our kickers. And it's a heavy practice. And what we do on that is it's heavy on kickoff during that time that we allot them. It's long field goal work and it's punting. And I put stretch at the end of a lot of these. Don't forget that, guys, even if you stretch at the beginning, you still have to stretch for the equal amount of time at the end of practice. Make sure that your kickers are there 10 to 15 minutes at the end of practice, working their way through and stretching the leg out the right way. Tuesday, I consider a light day if I have games on Fridays. We'll work on things like squib kickoffs. We'll work on some onside packages. We'll work some short PATs if we need to. And again, we'll also do punting, and again with the stretch. Wednesdays is a heavy day. It's your last heavy day of the week. Kickoffs, long field goals need to be during that time, and again, punting, and again, stretch. And Thursdays for us are always game situational days. So I try to work through every single situation that I can during a walkthrough. We try to look at everything, but during that day, keep it light. Okay, don't have your kicker go out the day before trying to hit a 55-yard game-winning field goal and completely blow out his entire leg or her entire leg. So make sure what you're doing is smart, and we're going to go over that a little bit because I have some breakdowns of the way that we handle special teams and how we work them in with our offensive sets during that time. So don't forget, it takes time for a leg to heal if you get nothing out of this. Number two, make sure that you pre-plan out your week and understand that you can have some days where you really push your kicker, and you have to have some days where you really protect your kicker to make sure that you're not just completely blowing the system out ahead of time, because ultimately at the end of the day, we want game day. We want that Friday. We want our place kicker to be 100% ready to go out and make all the kicks that they're capable of making. It's unbelievably important. So one way that we tie this in, and it's a way, again, for me as an engineer, I see everything as numbers. And for me, when I was kicking, I saw it as numbers as well. And it's my favorite drill for the kickers to do whenever they're off by themselves. And it's called the Around the World Kicking Game, or the Around the World Kicking Drill. And it's a way that the kicker can be by themselves. They can track their own progress, and they can mark. At the end of the day, they can go through their percentages. They understand where their strengths are if you follow this system. They understand where their weaknesses are. And it's a way for you as the head coach or the special teams coordinator to collect, so you don't always have to be right on top of your kicker, but you're still able to track them and what they're doing. And what you're going to see from this drill, as we get into it a little bit, is that you're going to build confidence because your kicker understands where they're good from, where they're not good from. And understanding what you're good at builds a lot of mental confidence whenever it comes time for kicks. Understanding where your kicker comes from, likewise, as a coach or as the head coach or the special teams coordinator, lets you know where your kicker is good from, and then you don't put them into bad situations. Perhaps the worst thing you can do to a young kicker is put them into a situation where they cannot succeed, and you put the weight of the world on their shoulders. Understand it this way. Again, If you have a Ferrari, you can always go 150 miles per hour and you can do whatever you want. But if you've got the old Ford F-150, you have to be a little patient with it, and you have to work it into gear. So around the world kicking game, as I go over it, I want you to view it as another way. I want you to view it like taking your gun to the range before you go out for deer season. You have to take the gun out. You have to shoot some rounds through it, check your scope, make sure it works, and you understand then all the ranges and what the tendencies are of that rifle going in. And the same works for your kicker, and they can work this through every single day. And it's as simple as this chart here. Every single day we have one of these printed out. You have your PAT and your 30-yard field goals right down the middle. The only thing that I like is a check if they make it in there in that mark, and an X if they missed it, and then we can pay attention every single day. Now, once that's over, this is where the around the world concept comes in to build this for the kickers. They start at the 20, and we start at the left hash. They get one at the left, one at center, and one at right for the 20. And you see off this chart then, at the 20-yard kick, we can keep track of the percentages that they made for all the 20-yard kicks. And then likewise, as we work our way around the world, we can see what their percentages are from the left hash, from the center, and from the right hash. So what you're able to do at that point is you're able to tell a couple different things, and it's going to play into what you put on your coach's sheets. It's going to play into how you make your decisions ultimately when you're in game time situations. But I work them all the way through, so they go 20, 25, all the way through 55-yard. Always let them stretch their leg a little bit. As they build consistency in the contact point, and they build leg strength as the season goes on, you're going to see an increase, and they're going to start hitting a couple 45s, a couple 50s. If you've got a kid that's hitting 55, start calling some colleges. But in all seriousness, this will give them a really good breakdown. And this will also build the kind of data that you need long-term in the understanding of special teams. You're going to understand right off the bat, if you've got a right-footed kicker, chances are pretty good that center is going to be great, and he's probably going to miss more right hash kicks as they get in longer. They're going to be easier as he goes in shorter. So these are the kind of tendencies that you're going to be able to build in the analytics of your game and help make these decisions. What I do off of this is I'm able to look at the weekly progression of how a kicker's doing. We're in a situation right now where we have to share our place kicker, and I'm sure many of you do as well with the soccer program. And you really have to be careful with the number of kicks that you give them, because you want the soccer team to be successful and you want to be successful at the same time. And it's even more important at a smaller school, but I'll tell you, it exists at the larger schools too. Have a good relationship with all the other programs and all their other coaching staffs. Don't get caught into this belief that just because you're the football team and you're the big dog on campus, that those other programs won't be successful. I've seen a lot of high schools where the football program thought they were all that existed, and then you end up leaving a lot of wide receivers on the basketball team because they don't want to play football, and you end up losing a lot of really good kickers because they don't want to play because they're only playing soccer. So you can do a lot as the football coach to try to stretch across the lines, help them out, give them some field time when you need them, help them out however you can, and it'll pay itself off. That's just an interesting side note. But you take these numbers, and for me, every single week and every single day, I look at these and break them down, and I force my special teams coordinator to grade the kicker every single week on what they're doing throughout the week. And then I like a comparison as well as to what they do in the games. And it's a really interesting study. The deeper that you get into it, is the kicks that they're making in practice are also going to be the kicks that they're making in games. So don't think that there's no relevance to this system. The system will pay for itself in the long run if you get into it. Number one. Number two, it buys your coaches some time to get on the field and help you, because it gives the kickers something to do all by themselves and work through and build up. Now, the end goal to this ultimately is during games. This is as difficult as my field goal chart is on my coach's sheet or up in the booth. It's this difficult. Literally, the green marker is where my go line is, and my field goal unit, my special teams coordinator, they understand this. Our go right now is the 25-yard line. So if we get the ball to the 25-yard line, it's a 42-yard kick. the way that I designate what is green for go is that if your kicker it can make 75% of those kicks from that distance, that's a green light. You have to be able to go at that point because the odds are much better in your favor there than they are trying to score a touchdown from that point, and understand that. Yellow on this chart is 50%. So I just broke it down generically. I'm not going to give you my real numbers for my kicker right now, but it's just another 5 yards deeper. And as you go a little deeper, you'll see everything will bell as to what they make and the percentage. So for the 30-yard line, it's a 47-yard kick. That is if the game's pushing and we're having a really hard time scoring, I'm not afraid to at least try it because I know 50% of the time my kicker's got it. My red line on my sheet, and it also pulls again from this around the world kicking game. You're able to build in stats through this that you can work analytically throughout the year. Red is the absolute longest this kid has kicked. And it's a situation that you don't necessarily want to put them in, but it's a situation that you might have to put yourself into. So understanding that, you're putting your kicker in a situation where then they can continuously learn from what they're doing, number one. And number two, you're building the statistics to make it easier for you to make decisions on game day, number two. And number three, you're letting your kicker know that you're not going to put them into a bad situation, that you understand where they kick, where they're best at, and how best to use them. So you're building confidence not only in your coaching game, but you're also building confidence in your kicking game that way. So we went over everything in that one great game or that one great drill called Around the World. And now I want to talk a little bit about consistency in practice. And this is an area where some head coaches and some special teams coordinators, they have a really difficult time trying to mesh what you want to get accomplished in with the special teams into real life situations. And it's different than just going, okay, put the ball on the 35 and go make the game winning kick. You have to work yourself through it, and you have to work. It goes all the way from the beginning, whether you're kicking off and trying to get an onside kick and then driving the ball to go for the field goal. It's my opinion that you have to work every single unit all the way through from the beginning. And that's how you build more mental toughness again for your kicker, because they understand that it's a full process of preparation. So now a lot of this is going to be the preparation side of building that consistency into the practice. We practice 2-minute or red zone every single day. It's our preference. I know some coaches that only do it 2 days a week. I know some that do it 3 days. I know some that don't practice at all, and I don't know how they make it. But we do it every day, and we do it at the end of the practice because I want a sense of urgency. I want my guys to be more exhausted at that point like they would be in a game. I want to mimic as much of the game time situation as I can into that practice, into that final moment, into that final push. So we do it at the end of every practice. And what we do is we set up, as we went over earlier with our daily kicking responsibilities and whether we go heavy or whether we go light on the kicking, I tie that into this system every single time. And it's important to do it because then you're drilling your kicker situationally. You're drilling your short snapper, your long snapper, and your holder, whoever it may be. They're getting used to the rhythm of the game when they're completely exhausted. And that builds mental toughness as well, just keeping them sharp. And again, as I said, tie it in with their daily work. So if you have a heavy day, and as you'll see in the next chart, we go ahead and we push it. I pretend like I'm down by 2 and I need the long field goal to win the game, or I need the touchdown push to win the game. If it's a short day or if it's a light day, it may be a PAT. It may be just getting the onside kick and making sure it's right and starting from there. So building consistency in the moment every single practice is a real key. Whenever we start, we go, no matter how the day starts, my kickers, my special team coordinator, my short snapper, my holder, they all have a rhythm. When we're driving the ball, and this happens every single time, whether it's in game day situations, whether it's in real life on the game, whether we're trying to drive those last couple minutes, we're trying to get a good two-minute push. Every time we cross the 50-yard line, I send my special teams coordinator back with my kicker and the exchange unit. And I call the exchange unit the short snapper to the holder. And he walks away and he goes back with the kicker. He makes sure that the kicker's not getting crazy, trying to blow their leg out, making sure that they're stretching properly, making sure that the exchange unit is practicing what they have to know and building that consistency in that moment. The second thing that I do is that I have the booth, or I personally track the ball position on the field to know when it's time to pull the special teams unit out if we want to go the kicking route. I do not leave that up to the special teams coordinator. And a lot of you may wonder why, but I want the special teams coordinator to be a part of the calming effect, okay? I want them to be with their unit, making sure that they're doing everything right. So the last thing that those kids see is not this themselves over there trying to hurry up and see a head coach yelling and a special teams coordinator freaking out trying to get them onto the field. They see that moment. So there's no yelling, there's no screaming. It's easy enough for me to go over to my channel and say, hey, it's third down and we're in range. Bring your kicker over. There's no yelling. There's no screaming. Again, it's another mental edge to the game, and it makes it easier. I also don't let the special teams coordinator understand where the ball is and whether or not they make that decision, because just like everything else, if you talk to your offensive passing game coordinator, they're going to want to pass the ball all the time. If you talk to your run game coordinator, they're going to want to run the ball all the time. And your special teams coordinator, they're always going to want their kicker to go out and make the plus 50-yard kick that they may not be able to make. So take it out of their hands, be the head coach, and allow yourself to make the decision. And then at the end of the day, you can put the decision-making process on yourself. And that's another part of this mental edge that we're going to get to later, is about how to take responsibility for the decisions that you make there. On third down, if we're within the green zone or if we're within the yellow, depending on the scenario, I'll have the special teams coordinator, we'll get a hold of him, and he'll bring his entire unit, and they'll stand right behind me on the sidelines, and they're ready to go once they're there. And it's easy enough then for me to turn around and say, field goal kick, or let's go for it, or hang on, it's 4th and 1, and I think we can get it because we need the points. But it keeps those kids there. It keeps them in the moment. It allows the special teams coordinator to be the calming effect on them at that moment. The special teams coordinator is not worried about the situation of the game. He's just worried, or she's just worried about the scenario that's going on in that small unit at that time. So it's a way that you can micromanage what's happening on the field, build mental toughness and a calmness over that small unit before you send them on the field without seeing all the craziness of what happens. So here we go. This is how I attack my 2-minute drills or my red zone drills on a weekly basis, depending on how we attack it. On Mondays, because they're my heavy days, and I like to push my kickers a little bit on Mondays, our goal is that we're down by 2 points whenever we start the drive. I let my guys start from the 30-yard line, and they have to drive the full distance of the field. And I make sure in these last 10 minutes that I get a touchdown out of my unit, and I get a long field goal out of this unit. And it's a rewarding process as well, because if I can get a touchdown pretty quick, and if I can get the field goal to go through, it gets my guys off the field a little earlier. So they see that as a reward. And it's a way that I'm able to get everything that I want to get accomplished then at the end of practice during that drill. The guys go through, they're very efficient and effective, and they figured out pretty quickly that if they can be more effective, they can get off and go relax and go back to their phones and go talk to their girlfriends. So they have much more fun that way. On Tuesdays, they're lighter days. So we'll do things such as saying, okay, guys, we're down by 6. We just scored. I need an onside kick. So I'll send the kicking unit out. We try to get the onside kick. Wherever we start, once it's successful, I make the offense push hard that time. And I want a touchdown. We'll drop the time limit. We may say there's 45 seconds on the clock, and you got to push. And then the touchdown ties the game, and I want the PAT. Now, one thing I left off here as well is sometimes, if everything's not working right, I'll also have them go for the 2-point conversion on a Tuesday as well during this red zone drill. I do that a lot on my light days because I want to have that in the repertoire. And sometimes I show a 2-point conversion early just to take pressure off of my kicking game. But that's another talk for another time. Wednesdays, again, you'll see it's almost an exact mirror for Mondays. So, and then Thursdays, We go down by 7, so it's situational where you want to start the ball. And you do that. You make that decision as a coach. You know your team best. You know their strengths. You know their weaknesses. But make sure you work your way all the way through on a pre-game day. Make sure that your team is able to push on a 2-minute drill to get to touchdown. Make sure you get the extra point. Work your way through. Get an onside kick. Push yourself for the 2-point conversion and make sure you get a good field goal. Now, I'm not saying a 52-yard field goal on a Thursday. I'm saying a 30 or 35-yard field goal with a little bit of added pressure will go an extremely long way. And it'll build confidence. Then the team understands all the way from the beginning, and we're going to go back on this just a little bit. You're going to understand that whenever you do these things every single day, you build rhythm inside of your units. Your coaches know where they're supposed to be. Your kickers know where they're supposed to be. Your kickers know what the situations are. Your holder, that exchange unit knows where they have to be during that time. And they know that they've got the time to be able to get themselves mentally prepared and to be focused enough. And they know that they've got that special teams coordinator or that kicking coach. The kicking coach is another good one. If you're blessed enough to have a coach that works with your kickers every single day, he can take over that responsibility of making sure that unit stays intact. So it really depends on the size of your staff. But what you're doing every single step of the way is you're building consistency for your kickers. You're building analytics for your program using this system. So you understand when's the right time to go for it, when's the right time not to, what the odds are. So you're taking it completely out of the guess game and you're putting it into an analytical standpoint. And again, for me as an engineer, it makes the most sense. I like to know the odds. I like to know where the consistency is. I like to know when I'm going to fail in a decision based off of just pure chance or pure luck. So that helps us tremendously. The sixth thing is building the relationship. And, I say building the relationship, and you're working your way through this process. You're going to say, well, what does a relationship have to do with making a kicker more mentally strong? What does it have to go with? And there's a special bond that you can create with these kids and with these football players just by being there and just by listening and just by talking to them. A lot of average coaches spend all their time with their quarterbacks. A lot of great coaches and the amazing coaches spend time with their offensive line and their kickers and their quarterbacks, because they understand that building that relationship, being able to talk them through something, saying great job or saying, hey, I put you in a bad situation and this one's on me, it alleviates a lot of that mental stress from those players. And I think a lot of coaches get too built in, especially the head coaches that were offensive coordinators. You get too bent into just wanting to talk to the quarterback and sometimes ignoring the rest of the game. But if your kicker knows that they can come straight to you after a kick, whether it's good or bad, and you talk through it, and there's a great movie that I like to reference, and it's a baseball movie, but I think it works really well for the kicking game, and it's called For Love of the Game. It's by Kevin Costner. It's a great movie, but there's a great line inside of it. It's called Clearing the Mechanism. And it's something that I think it's worth as a special teams coordinator, as a kicker, watch it and understand how they're able to focus in on that. And again, there's a lot of psychology to being able to focus in the way that they do in the film. But understand this, you're only as good as your next kick. You're only as good as the next decision that you have to make to kick. And you're going to be just fine. So if you make it, don't get overhyped to the point where you're going to mess up the next one. If you miss that last kick, don't beat yourself up so badly that you're not going to be able to go get the next one. Just remember, it's a numbers game. Every day as a head coach, and Coach B and I have talked about it, sometimes the things that I miss as being a head coach now is having that full time to actually coach. As a head coach, you spend probably 50 to 80% of your time dealing with football administrative duties instead of with the actual coaching duties. So that's why it's really important you have an excellent staff. I'm blessed to have a great staff around me, but spend the time as the head coach to work the relationships. Trust your offensive coordinator enough to walk away every now and again and go down and watch your kicker in the around the world kicking games. Talk to them about what's going on in life. Talk to them about what's going on if they're a soccer player and how their soccer team's doing. Care. If you care about your kids, if you care about your kicker, if you spend time going down and talking to the offensive line and joking around with those guys, you're going to see huge rewards for building those relationships. They're going to go out and fight for you. They're going to feel the confidence in the situations that you put them in, and they're really going to feel like you're buying in. And one final thought on this in building the relationship is, depending on how the media is in your area, but you have to be willing to defend them. You have to understand that with all the analytics that you're building up in this entire situation, you're making the analytical decision at that time. And you have to understand that they're just kids, and some of them are going to make amazing kicks for you and pull you out of some really tight situations, and some of them are going to miss. And I tell you this because you have to be willing to stand in front of the media at times and take responsibility for making the decision and understanding that you're putting them in bad situations. If you go out of your way and do these kind of things and they see that in the media and they see what their coach is doing on a regular basis, they're going to push harder, and it's going to build that mental toughness even more. In the kicking world, we used to make fun of the way that the situation worked in Indianapolis whenever Peyton Manning made fun of the place kicker and called him the idiot kicker. It'd be really, really difficult for me to want to go out and make a game-winning kick for a coach, let alone a quarterback, that called me an idiot kicker, as compared to somebody that's willing to defend me publicly in the media and to work our way through our problems as a unit behind closed doors. So remember that the relationship, always give the relationship that you wish you had, and you'll never go wrong that way. Talk with them. Again, good or bad, let the kicker come straight out to you. Again, spend time with them each and every single day. You don't have to do it every single day. Some days there's just not all the time in the world to do it. But if you get out there 2 or 3 times a week and just spend a minute with them, it'll pay off. And again, defend them in the media. And buying into special teams is huge. I've been around some coaches that as soon as it's special teams time, they walk off and they go talk to the athletic director, or they're over talking to the fundraising committee, and they're not worried about it. They just think it's this second nature part of the game that they don't have to worry about. Be there on the field. Be the biggest coach for special teams that you can, and you're going to get guys to build into it. And finally, don't be afraid to work off of what you've built. I gave you guys some really good diagrams with the around the world drill, with building those analytical stats to understand what kind of kicker you have, not being afraid to look at the numbers and judge yourself and the decisions that you're making as well. But understand that there's a great confidence in doing and not trying. And I say this because if you're not willing to put the time in, if you're not willing to put the kids in those situations, they're not going to be successful. And merely calling a timeout and going, well, we're going to try this play, it's not going to have that kind of confidence. You're going to make them second guess every single decision that's being made at that moment. What you want to do, and the whole point of this program, is to streamline the thinking process for your kickers and make them worry just about one little thing. The second thing about breaking down the analytics is understand the strengths and weaknesses of your kicking game. Those daily sheets, the weekly breakdowns from your special teams coordinator or from your kicker, or just having those meetings, you're going to understand where your kicker can best perform for your team. And the better that you put yourself into a situation and allow yourself to build confidence in that kicker and allow them to make the kicks they know they can make, it's going to go a long way. And again, remember, whether you have a Ferrari or an old Ford F-150, if you've got the Ferrari, you can push the pedal a little bit. If you've got that Ford F-150, you're going to have to start short, and you're going to have to build confidence up as they grow as a kicker. So never be afraid to go back to the statistics, work your way through them, and understand what the important part is. Going back to the confidence in doing and not trying, if you don't practice it, how can they ever perform it? You have to put the time into it. You have to work your way all the way through to make sure that your team understands what they're capable of. And there's a lot of confidence in understanding that they're capable of doing something all the way from the beginning point all the way to the end, as opposed to throwing them in. So again, that's another way to build mental toughness. And finally, take ownership again in the kicking game and buying into it. Analytics is the key for us. It's how we break it down. It's how I build kickers up from the beginning. May not be the right system for you, but make sure that you spend the time to make that investment into this 33% of your game, and completely buy into what's going on. Because if you don't buy in, you can't expect your team to buy in. If you don't have confidence in your kicker won't have confidence in the decision making that you're making. So to break it down, at the end of the day, I think it's really important to understand one thing, and it's this. If you're not willing to put the time in, if you're not willing to watch a kid grow or a kicker grow, if you're not willing to understand when to hit the gas pedal and when to hit the brake, then you're never going to see growth into your system. So make sure you consistently push the right buttons. Make sure you analyze the numbers in the right way. Make sure you go out of your way to buy into the system. And by using these analytical methods, I have complete faith that you're going to be a complete success and watch your special teams grow. So I'd like to thank you all for your time today. Again, I'm Coach Christopher Simpson with Trinity Christian School. You guys see all my information there on Instagram or Twitter. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to work through any systems that you guys may have, or try to answer any questions that I wasn't completely clear with here. And again, have a great day. Thanks for your time, Coach. Thanks for allowing me to do this, and keep it between the uprights. Thanks.